Hi everyone, this is Miss Caroline, ba ba ba, and my teacher assistant, Gracie, the hearing dog guy. Good girl. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the total communication approach that my mentor teacher and I did in my practicum last fall. Yes, that fall of 2020, where masks became a 4-letter word in deaf education and in my own personal life as I wear 2 cochlear implants. I miss lip reading. Okay, pity party over. Let's get back on track. To give you a little background information, my practicum was in a grade 1-2 split deaf and hard of hearing ISP class. ISP stands for Intensive Support Program. So these are students who need a lot of support and are working below grade level. When my mentor teacher and I taught lessons, we would use signed support to give students better access to language. It was not American Sign Language because we had our voices on. ASL is signing with your voice off. As soon as you start talking while signing, you are doing signed exact English or signed support. We also did not sign full sentences with ASL syntax and grammar. We were not translating nor interpreting everything we said into ASL because that would be slow, not to mention difficult, because now you're trying to communicate in 2 different languages at the same time, which would be kind of superpower. And no, just because one is spoken and the other is signed doesn't make it any easier. The goal of this oral program is not to speak and learn ASL, it's to develop spoken English language. When you use sign support in a classroom, what you're doing is giving the students a visual to support the auditory information. It's a little bit like lip reading while listening to someone speak. Sometimes that extra visual gives you clues as to what words the sounds make up when you're having a difficult time hearing. Especially in a noisy classroom, if you're not lucky enough to have full carpeting, drapes, or should I say window treatments, hush-ups, the works. Here's a signed exact English dictionary website that you can try out if you need some help building your repertoire of signs. When you choose a book to read, look for a new vocabulary and learn the signs for them before you read it to your students. Make sure you're comfortable using the sign and practice a lot before whipping it out during the lesson. Okay, so now I told you that we use sign support in the classroom. Here's an example of how I used it in my practicum. I had to teach my students how to retell a story, and I chose a book called Frog and Toad Together, The Garden. I love the Frog and Toad series. They are funny, simple, and entertaining. I went through the book and I chose a few signs to incorporate while I was reading. For example, I chose garden because I knew that was a new word for my students. I also chose frog and seed. While teaching, I also sometimes use the English sign for the word and the, which are not present in ASL. I did not sign every word because it wasn't necessary for these particular students because they had good amplification and auditory listening skills. They just needed a little support. You may have some students who need more sign support and some who don't need any at all. The signs I used in the story also help to create a drama activity to help the students understand the order of the story. My students learned to retell the story through acting, including singing to the seas, falling asleep, seeing the garden. The kids loved this activity. It created a great movement break for the lesson and helped to reinforce their understanding and memory of the events in the story. It also served as a warm-up activity for the next few lessons. I encourage you to practice by reading a book and choose a few tier 2 vocabulary words and any new words your students may not know and learn the signs for them. Even if right now you're teaching in a classroom full of hearing students, doesn't hurt to practice and give them that visual to reinforce their learning and understanding. Good luck!